All right, welcome back. Bob Pompeani, Chris Mueller. We'll get to golf in a second, but first, the Pitt Panthers. In a game I didn't really expect, especially if you had told me that Justin Champagny would have only 10 points, I would have thought, well, Virginia Tech's going to do what a lot of these other teams have done and blow them out. But instead, it was Pitt who built up a 15-point lead, and they were the team that blew out the 16th-ranked team. It's hard to figure Pitt this year, Chris, but that's a nice win for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they played 3 really bad games, and Capel alluded to that after the game, and they came at a bad time right after they were sort of feeling themselves, and everybody else was, myself included. High marks, though, in this game and everything that surrounded it to 2 people above all else. Jeff Capel, 1. Maybe Mike Sullivan could take a page from his playbook. He benches Horton and Xavier Johnson. Hey, you're not going to start. That's a big deal for college kids, I think, especially for Xavier Johnson. You've got to know that you have your team and you're not going to lose guys by doing that, but that the punishment will get across. So big marks to Capel, I think, for doing that. And really the biggest marks here to Xavier Johnson, because when you're, 20 years old or whatever, 21 years old, and you're not a pro, I think it can be tough to respond the right way to that. He did. Career high. I mean, he played a great game. So I give huge high marks to both of those two, and hopefully for Pitt, this kickstarts them. Because one thing I think should be clear from watching what they did to Virginia Tech and the way they just blew a close game open, it's a very talented basketball team. It's not the versions of Pitt where they would be pretty good, they'd be a good seed in the NCAA tournament, but you knew the talent had a ceiling. They can do this to good teams. So hopefully this kickstarts them and they don't kind of rest on their laurels because they beat a ranked team.
And they normally rely on 3 guys, 4 maybe, and that's the bad part of it too, because if you do shut those guys or at least half of them down, it makes it difficult for them to win. But they can do that. And now they have Virginia coming up on Saturday. It should be fun. Let's go to the lines, Chris. We have Chris, actually, in Bridgeville. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Talk to Chris, Chris.
How are you guys?
Good.
Who's on first, Chris?
Yeah. So this is a quick question about Pitt and Duquesne basketball. So as I'm sure you guys know, Duquesne currently has more national championships than Pitt. And I'm just wondering how much wider you expect that lead to get now with the new stadium.
That's a
Is this Josh Taylor calling in under an assumed name? Josh, if this is you, you can admit it. I love Duquesne having that new arena kind of redone and given a big facelift, though. I said this Monday. I love that local college basketball feel. I'm a Pitt fan. I want to see Pitt win. But I really want to see Robert Morris and Duquesne win, too. I love that they got a nicer facility. I can't wait till they can fill that place up. I think that is, for me, and I mean this very seriously, I think having stuff like that, having those teams hopefully be relevant, is important to there being like a vibrant sports scene in town. Like you can call a town a big sports town if it's got good pro teams and what have you, but I think having a vibrant college sports scene is an important part of that.
I agree, and I think these 2 teams need to play city game, let's go, all these kinds of rivalry games. And I think if we've learned anything from this pandemic season, Chris, is that you can schedule whatever you want to schedule. Don't tell me you can't change something 8 years from now. You can do it in 8 days if you have to. I know it's a different situation, but what I like about their team, too, Dan Broad's done a good job recruiting. They have some talent there, too, and they lost a couple of guys, but they're still playing hard, and they go over 500. Let's go out to Jim in Mount Lebanon, who joins us right now on the Sports Call. Hey, Jim. Jim, are you there?
Yes.
Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to say I think Casey DeSmith is a better goaltender than Christian Jarrett. And I think Malkin's got to go. They got to trade Malkin in the tank.
Yeah, first of all, let's get back to the goalie situation first. They're both not good right now, and that's a problem. They both have to be better. DeSmith is what he is. I don't have a problem, but Jari's a guy who, this is extending back to last season, Chris, and this is a concern because we saw an all-star performance, and then in the second half, not so much.
I've said this a million times about Jari. It was the knock on him coming through their system where Murray kind of got himself on a rocket ship and went past him. Jari will play 55, 56 great minutes and 4 very bad minutes, and those 4 very bad minutes are the ones that show up on the score sheet and give him a loss when he shouldn't have one. And I'm sorry, there's no good answer here. I don't have some magic bullet. You can't do that at the NHL level. And I could really say that, by the way, about their entire team and the way they play in some of these games where they lose. it looks pretty good for the majority, and then these blow-up periods just absolutely cripple them.
It really was. The other night, too, just 0 for 6 on the power play and not even generating much opportunity.
Shoot!
Exactly.
Shoot!
I mean, you've heard it how many times from people, and now you got the coaches talking about it. It just doesn't resonate.
Sometimes the people are right.
I know. And in
Sometimes
this case,
the people are right. So,
they are.
you know, like if you could say it and occasionally be right when it was Lemieux and Stevens and Paul Coffey, you can absolutely say it when it's Malkin, Crosby, and, well, not Letang, but you get the drift.
Absolutely. Al in Bethel Park is on the hotline right now. Hello, Al. Welcome to the Sports Call.
Hey, Bob. Always good talking to you.
You too.
Hey, Mr. Mueller. You mentioned Mr. Joseph earlier during the show. Chris Letang should never, ever again take the ice for the Penguins. He should be traded because the Penguins are trying to get younger and stronger. Joseph is the future of the Penguins. Now he's here. Trade Letang. Joseph is now your anchor of your defenseman. I want to see if you agree or disagree. Thanks, guys. You all have a good night.
You too.
Hugely optimistic about what I've seen. Bob Airy was on with us today on the PM team. He is every week. Love talking to him. I asked him what he'd seen from P.O. Joseph so far, good and bad, and kind of what the future might hold. And he said he just looks like the moment's not too big. And I think part of that's because he's such a good skater. But we got to remember, he's literally a handful of games into an NHL career. Defensemen tend to have a longer kind of, acclimation period. He might be really precocious, but I'm not trading Chris Letang because I feel like the future has already fully arrived, because it hasn't. He's going to go through some growing pains.
He is. And the previous caller also wondered about Malkin. Both these guys have, trade clauses, no trade clauses.
Right, they're hard to move.
They're hard to move. And then the question is, how much do you really get? If this were 2 years ago, maybe you could have done it, but they didn't want to mess up the chemistry at that point. I'm just wondering, what would you get now in your estimation, Chris?
Well, see, that's the problem. That's the problem, though. Like, we're talking about this, and why are people asking for Malkin and Letang to be traded? Because they're,
right.
Well, in Letang's case, he's not on the ice, but Malkin's playing poorly. That is the definition of trading guys when they're at their absolute lowest value. That's not what you do. We started the show talking about the Rays. The reason the Rays tend to stay good is because they trade guys at the apex of their value, right? Like, they trade Blake Snell after he got yanked from possibly a World Series defining performance when he was still at the top of his game. You don't trade guys like Malkin and Letang when it's obvious that they're playing poorly. You're not going to get a return for them.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break here. We have CJ coming up next, and also we'll talk about, I want to get a prediction. And if I were to make a bet on who to pick for the Phoenix Open, I want to do that and a prop bet. We have some tweets here about what do you think the best prop bet is. We'll ask Chris that and want to get your thoughts on it as well. It's 412-575-2600. Sports Call continues right after this on Pittsburgh CW.